Trust and obey, for there's no other way. What does this mean, and in what context? By Sammis. The hymn for him. For those of us that grew up going to church, the common refrain for the hymn written by John H. Sammis in 1887 says, "Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey." I'm not going to dwell on the words of this old favorite hymn or its meaning, given its context in a person's relationship with their God. But I wanted to draw attention to the fact that many people have either trust challenges or obedience challenges in their relationships with their God and others. The oath of the enlisted and the vows of marriage. It strikes me as both ironic and thought-provoking that both the oath of the enlisted man going into the United States Armed Forces and the vows of the marriage commonly contain references to obedience and indirectly to trust. I suppose both the soldier and the married couple pass through so many challenges, both foreign and domestic, and so many battles and so many wars that it seems that it should be appropriate to dig into the etymology of the oaths and the vows. For it seems that it is likely that the seriousness and the soul-searching when honoring and obeying the oath and or the vow tend to lengthen one's lifespan in any of the battles or wars. The oath of enlistment. The wording of the oath of enlistment has changed some over time and for various reasons. This is the oath as it stands now. I, Sammis, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. This oath has changed significantly from the oath that was used in 1775 as part of the act creating the Continental Army, which was, I, Sammis, have this day voluntarily enlisted myself as a soldier in the American Continental Army for 1 year unless sooner discharged, and I do bind myself to conform in all instances to such rules and regulations as are or shall be established for the government of the said army. It was subsequently changed in 1776 with, I, Sammis, swear or affirm as the case may be, to be true to the United States of America and to serve them honestly and faithfully against their enemies, opposers whatsoever, to observe and obey the orders of the Continental Congress and the orders of the general and officers set over me by them. This was in the days before the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Once the executive branch was created and all other checks and balances, and as the President was empowered as the Commander-in-Chief, the oath evolved further to, I, Sammis, appointed a private in the Army of the United States, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will bear true allegiance to the United States of America, and that I will serve them honestly and faithfully against all their enemies or opposers whatsoever, and observe and obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to the rules and articles for the government of the armies of the United States, and then eventually to its present form. In each case, some historical event changed the needs of and the nature of the oath for the enlisted men and women. The marital vows. Like the oath of the enlisted, traditional marital vows tend to take the topic of trust and obedience seriously as well, and the consequences can be just as dire. If the roles of commander-in-chief and officers aren't established early on, then this can lead to challenging battles and wars for years until the ultimate dissolution of the agreement. In many cases, the problems of marriage can be traced back to the level of and understanding of the commitment necessary to make the marital partnership work. The greater good. For one to truly understand the significance and sovereign nature of the oath of the enlisted, you have to understand that the enlisted soldier is literally placing their trust and life in the hands of their commanders. While the enlisted soldier can assume that the order is unlawful or illegal, the enlisted soldier has a duty to make an effort to have the relationship established with their commanders in times of peace, so that when the times of turmoil come, the enlisted soldier has an understanding of the trust that the commander has earned and demanded, and that their commanders will act in order with the greater purpose and greater good in mind. And the commanders who truly understand the greater purpose and greater good will give those orders and expect obedience without question. It is imperative and necessary that both the enlisted soldiers and the commanders establish the relationship during training and subsequent duty so that the entire unit acts swiftly and in harmony. In good times and in bad. While not all marriage vows include the phrase, in good times and in bad, it does have some significance to the life of the enlisted soldier. The enlisted soldier builds relationships with their fellow enlisted as well as their command structure during normal good times or times of peace. And while there are realistic simulations of bad times, it is extremely important that the relationship of trust and the acts of obedience exist during the good times or times of peace, as if the bonds and commitment are not understood during those times, then the relationship will surely suffer during the times of war or bad times. While some might feel that the good times serve as a simulation or training for the bad times, it is actually the foundation for that which is strong and which keeps the unit strong. Like a house or a building, a strong tower or a fortress, if the foundation is poorly designed and formed, it will surely fail even under the most mild of dire circumstances. Ours not to reason why. Ours not to reason why, ours but to do and die. Alfred Lord Tennyson. This quote comes from the poem Charge of the Light Brigade, which is set during the 1854 Battle of Balaclava in the Crimean War. The full line actually reads, "There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why. There's but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. It is obvious that the author of these words is praising and exalting these soldiers for their obedience to their orders while making their heroic but ill-fated charge. And in that time, in that place, minutes of hesitation would cost thousands of lives and the loss of so many strategic objectives. Even a less than second moment of hesitation on the part of the enlisted soldier in the modern war theater can have just as dramatic and poor effects as the response time and speeds of modern warfare leads to an acceleration and magnification of the problems that could present themselves. While it would be nice to have the time afforded by the warning, "The redcoats are coming," in the days of the writing Paul Revere, we simply exist in a time when there is no time to contemplate before reacting. Good times. Hopefully, most marital relationships go through some good times before the bad times come, and they will. But the enduring nature of the relationship is established before the bad times, during the good times. And whatever understanding and roles were exchanged during the vows of the relationship, if they do not hold or are not practiced during the good times, the relationship will likely suffer during times of distress. Sometimes the circumstances during the bad times, such as bad health, can change the nature of the roles and the nature of the relationship for better or worse. And this can happen because of trust and honor established during the good times. For they serve as a foundation that can make the relationship stable during the bad times. It seems harmless. If an enlisted soldier disobeys or hesitates to obey an order during the good times, it seems like it's just harmless, as the consequences to others can seem so small. Just as in a marital relationship, the simple hesitation or questioning of the role can seem so harmless, but it's not the immediate effect that can be so harmful. It serves as the warning light on the dashboard or an indicator that something is wrong, and that immediate attention must be given to the problem, or the longer-term consequences could be quite damaging and harmful. It can be like the initial crack in the foundation of a home where the water starts to seep in, but then grows to the point where the structure simply can't be saved. Life in the balance. We place our trust in those around us in many ways throughout the days of our lives. While we may not have the same established relationship with our doctor, our nurse, our commander, our pastor, our priest, or our electrician, we have to establish a trust relationship with them during the good times so that if we ever need them during the bad, we do not hesitate to do as instructed or ordered or requested. For we cannot foresee all the circumstances that will come during our lifetime, but we must put some trust in those around us and establish trusting relationships with them. The other way. There is the other way, of course. As the King James Bible so aptly puts it, as written by King Solomon in Proverbs 14:12, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. History has taught us that there are times that the enlisted soldier has disobeyed an order and later has been given a reward, but this is not common or the likely outcome. As just part of the military force or part of a marriage, we aren't always in circumstances that we can comprehend or contemplate. So, in the end, we have to trust and build on the trust that we have established with each other during the good times. Failed relationships. I have personally been a party in many failed relationships, for I, as a human, am imperfect. I often wonder if things would have been different had I worked to establish that trust relationship as part of the relationship. I recognize that the scars, the subsequent healing, can make for stronger relationships over time, but too often I've given up and given in. It's so easy to place blame rather than try to work on the trust and the relationship. It's so tempting to move on. Me. We're going through times right now that lead to so many strained relationships. I'm no expert on trust or obey, but I'm hoping that I've given you something to think about. And maybe someday or some way, we will establish a trust-based relationship. In any case, feel free to follow my ramblings at the links listed below.